You already know what it means when I have this mic in my hand, and for those of you who don't, it means another book review is coming your way. Let's talk The Spite House by Johnny Compton. If someone offered you 6 figures to stay in a haunted house, would you? This story follows Eric Ross and his 2 daughters, Stacy, the youngest, and Des, the oldest. They're all on the run to start a new life. Eric ends up seeing this ad in the newspaper for this job that is offering 6 figures to stay in this house. He ends up taking it. The lady, Eunice Houghton, who's offering the money, she feels as though her family and the tragedy that's happening within her family as far as everyone dying, she feels as though it's connected to the house. And she's the last living person in her family. She's trying to basically figure out what she can do to not die, because she knows that it's coming soon. So she wants Eric to stay in the house. She's going to pay him, and all he has to do is document all the paranormal activity. Anything that happens inside of the house every night, he has to document it. Day 1, things get weird. They don't even, you know how in movies, usually that first night, well, not usually, some movies, they start you right off like that. But you know how in movies, sometimes the first night, it's a little, you building up. You're building up to the paranormal activity. And in this book here, ain't no build up. First day, Stacy is hearing voices. Not only is she hearing voices, she's seeing people. Dead people. And I'm not going to reveal why she can hear and see them. You just going to have to read the book. Eric's experiences were the most interesting to me because he started experiencing memories that weren't his. So whenever he would go to sleep, he would wake up in places that he's never been to and in a body that was not his. The longer he went through this, the harder it was for him to differentiate what was real and what wasn't. Also, Eric has his own reasons for staying in the house too. At first you think it's for the money. Then as the story keeps going, you start to realize, okay, it's deeper than money for him. He's really trying to get to the bottom of his own stuff too, which is a whole nother story. Once Des starts hearing things, that's when Eric is like, okay, no, it's not safe for Des and Stacy to stay in the house. He would rather just be in the house by himself, and he goes and he sends Stacy and Des to Eunice's house, which she's pretty much big baller, shot caller. I ain't gonna say she runs Degener, but she basically runs Degener. Like, that's how much money she has. So she got this big old house next to this little bitty house. This is where they staying at, where Eric is staying at. So he tells Des and Stacy, y'all gotta go, because things are getting out of hand, okay? So I'm gonna send my kids to stay with you because this ain't safe. He don't know this lady from a can of paint. But he's like, I just don't want them involved in this. It's getting too crazy. Things are getting spooky. I'd rather something happen to me than happen to my kids. Which was crazy to me, because then I'm like, well, who's going to take care of the kids if something happened to you, Eric? What makes the haunting crazy is that normally I feel like watching movies, when people go into haunted houses and stuff, everybody typically experiences the house the same way. But in this book, it's different. Like, Stacy has her own experience. Eric is going back in time. And then Des, she has Stacy telling her what's happening. She's more so like feeling things. She's not seeing it or hearing it. It's like a feeling for her. So I thought that was pretty cool. As the story goes on, though, you start to realize why this house is haunted. Why it's called the Spite House. It's not just your ordinary ghosts. These are people who experience trauma, violence, death, all types of things in relation to Eunice Houghton's family. And that's why she wants to figure out what the house wants in order for her to not die. Their family did so much wrong that now this house is basically filled with these souls that are wanting revenge. And I don't blame them, honestly. At times, it was a little confusing to keep up with the story just because it jumps back and forth between what happened to the people. It's multiple people in the house that are dead. And it's telling each of their stories, like what happened to them. But it's kind of out of order, I would say. So it was hard to keep up with how each thing happened and who's who. There's multiple deaths connected to the house, people disappearing, people dying and coming back to life. Old memories and family history. But even when I was confused, I wanted to keep reading because I needed to know, are they going to make it out alive? They also tell a story of the last couple that stayed in the house for money. And they wasn't good. They barely made it out alive. And I'm talking about by the hairs of the chinny chin chin. You feel me? Like they barely made it out of that house. So I was like, I have to know, are they going to make it? We're not gonna take it. I had to know, were they gonna make it, and ultimately what was gonna happen to Eunice, because I felt like, for one, Eunice, you should have went up in there yourself. You sending people in, paying them, not even you sending people in, making them experience all this craziness just for them to report back to you, instead of you going in there yourself when it was your family. Your family is the reason why we even in this predicament. But you know what? I ain't even gonna get into that. I just felt like Eunice was dead wrong for that, sending people in there knowing what that house was capable of and offering to pay them that much money. You should know, I'm getting offered 6 figures. Something ain't right. And why you ain't going in here yourself? Why did nobody ask that question? Why you ain't going in there yourself? But she was like, I'm not doing it. You can, and I'm gonna pay you to tell me, and that's how we gonna settle it. What I loved most was, it's not your average ghost story. The house was unsettling from the jump, and I like that the story wasn't just about ghosts. There's layers to the story. What I didn't like was, there's so much information being thrown at you at once, as far as the history, when it goes into trying to tell you what happened to the specific people in the house. There's so many people in there that it makes it hard to follow. Other than that, the book was great. I'd recommend this book to, obviously, the people who love paranormal activity, haunted houses, ghost stories, revenge, death, and then people who just like where the haunting is connected to something deeper than just ghosts. I've read this book 3 times now. So if I had to rate it, I feel like you would already know that it's 10 out of 10, 5 stars. The very first time that I read this book, I got nightmares. And that may have been because the book itself gets crazy, but I also was doing the immersive reading, and the narrator for this book, Adam Lazar White, if you're familiar with S.A. Cosby and you listen to the audiobook, then you know who that is. But that voice is spooky on its own. So my first time reading it, I was like, okay, I had nightmares. I definitely had nightmares. So proceed with caution. You know what I mean? Have any of y'all ever read this book or heard about the book or anything? This is one book that I feel like I don't hear anyone talk about, but I read it and now I'm telling y'all about it, so you can go read it and then tell a friend to tell a friend. Johnny Compton, The Spy House. This book was great. It was great. If you have read it, let me know in the comments. If you haven't, do it and get back to me in the comments. Deuces.